Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be creating a US A2 size card. We've got two Simon Says stamp products that we're going to be using. So we've got this big stamp set, this is called Just Miss You. And then we've also got this stencil, this is called Clouds for Days. And this I've shown in my recent haul video. Obviously we've got the cloud stencil along the outside and then you've got the clouds on the inside, and this is then just filled with some really lovely sentiments, sending smiles, sending hugs, missing you, that sort of thing. So a really great stamp set. So those are the main products we're going to be using today, so let's get into creating our card. So the first thing we're going to do is grab some Ink Me cardstock by Hunky Dory. And we're just going to prepare our stencil. So when preparing the stencil, because it has got these cutouts in the middle, we don't want to get any of our ink through that because we're just going to be using the outer stencil. So we need to mask these off. So all I'm going to use is just some fully sticky backed post-it notes. So these are ones that I've used previously and I've just kept them. And then all we're going to do is then just layer these up over the inside stencils. So let's pop this one down as well. And then the other thing this is going to do, because these are fully backed, then through the gaps where you do have the stickiness, that is then going to hold it down onto our cardstock really nicely. So that's our stencil all prepared. So I'm going to be die cutting a panel from our cardstock. So I've got my die here and I'm just going to mark off and I'm going to trim this down because I don't need to waste the whole piece of card. So I'm just really roughly going to just trim this down. And our die fits on there, so then we're not sort of wasting too much of the rest of the cardstock then with our ink blending. So now we can get started actually using our stencil. So each side of these have got a sort of different pattern, sort of different depth of the clouds. So what we're going to do is use one side and then just keep rotating it around. So for our first cloud, let's just pop that there. So I've got a rainbow of distress inks. So I did pick up recently, I didn't show it in a video, but I picked up another pack of the distress inks, and I think that came with the Fire Brick, the Seedless Preserves, Salty Ocean and Mowed Lawn. So now I've just got a really great versatile rainbow set of colours. I've also got some blending brushes. So I showed you just some new coloured blending brushes that I've got. Those ones I use exclusively for my distress oxides because they are a different type of ink and I don't want them to get then contaminated with our distress ink or any sort of dye based inks. So I've got a brush per colour family. So really you only actually need, 5 brushes if you wanted to have a brush per colour family. So now let's get started actually stenciling our background. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of mustard seed. So I'm just going to go directly into the ink pad. And I'm going to start off then actually on the stencil itself because we just want to have sort of that impression. We don't want to kind of stencil and ink the whole sort of section. So I'm literally just going to start on the stencil itself. And then I'm just really gently going to just come off part of the way. So the concentrated colour is around the actual base of the stencil and then it kind of wisps off into that white. So if we pull our stencil back, you can then see our first cloud, and again, so you've got that really concentrated definition, but then it sort of has a really nice sort of a flowy effect. What I'm going to do, because I'm going to be rotating this and using then the different colours as well, I'm literally just going to wipe the excess off. If I was using maybe the same colour all the way around or the same colour family, I might not bother, but then when we start going into the different colours, it is then potentially going to transfer that previous colour. So I've rotated it 90 degrees and we're just going to bring it down enough, but then you've still got a little bit of that white gap. We're going to go in with some spiced marmalade. So I've got one brush for my orange and my red. So then our spiced marmalade. So it doesn't have to be kind of too perfect. You know, this is just some clouds, it's not going to be perfect. But you can see then, so we've covered up a lot of that white gap, but again that colour is concentrated at the base of that stencil, but now it's not so harsh for what's above it. So let's pull up our stencil. Again, I'm just going to wipe it off quick. And then we're going to rotate this again. So I like to have some of the colours kind of overlapping, just because then it sort of gives more of a sort of a fuller effect, more of a rainbow, and you can kind of get a few more colours. So now I'm going in with some fired brick, again with that same brush, but this is a lot more of a harsher colour, so it's a lot more sort of concentrated, so I'm going to go in with just a lighter hand. Pull up our stencil. So you can see this sort of comes together really quickly, and it's just a really nice kind of background. So you could do a wider gap if you wanted to. So we're going to go in with a little bit of picked raspberry. Again, I've got a brush for my pinks and my purples. And then I'm just doing circular motions and just coming off the stencil. But you can have this as subtle or as vibrant as you like. So that's our picked raspberry. And you can see we've got just a little bit more of a gap between those two. But you can also have them more overlapping. So let's overlap our next one. So then we're going in with our seedless preserves. So again, this is quite a powerful colour. So I'm going to go in just with a little bit more of a heavy hand, with a light hand, sorry. And you can see we're overlapping this little section here. Let's just kind of blend that out. But you can see how lovely that looks, just sort of overlapping it. I think it's a really beautiful background. So now let's come down just a little further, because now we're going to go into our salty ocean. And again then, just concentrating that colour at the bottom. And again, this is quite a dark colour, but I think it'll break up the sort of really nice gradient that we've got so far with the colours that we've used. So there's our salty ocean. Rotate it again, and we're going to go in with our mowed lawn. So let's get our green brush. And again, you can see that I'm just going in circles, just going from the stencil off onto our card. So you could add lots more colours if you've got a fuller sort of colour range, but what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go back to the beginning with my mustard seed. And, you know, depending on how big your cardstock was, so if you was doing like a slimline card maybe, you could literally just keep on going right the way through the rainbow. Okay, so let's bring this down again. Then we're going to go in with our spiced marmalade again. And what I really like is, so we're not going to get that sort of, probably not that second application of the blue or the green, but I love that it's sort of right there in the middle, so you're really going to be able to see it. If you wanted to make a quicker background, of course you don't have to do as many colours as what I'm doing here. You could stick to just a handful of those colours, and it would certainly not take quite this long. But I think, like I said, I think these just make a really beautiful background. Okay, so let's go in with our picked raspberry. Then we can go in with our seedless preserve. And then right at the bottom, so I don't have quite enough space, we might end up trimming this off anyway when we come to die cut it, but because there's not a lot of space left, all I'm going to do is literally just apply the ink to the bottom. And there we have our really lovely rainbow coloured background. So I do just quickly want to show you how I clean off my blending brushes. So I don't wash these. All I do is get a microfiber cloth and I'm just literally going to rub my brush into the cloth. So you can see I've got some other colour on here, but I don't sort of worry about that too much. And you can see it's sort of starting to lighten on the brush. If you think you've then got it off, you could just take a scrap piece of card, rub it on and just see if any colour transfers. So I'm not seeing any colour, so obviously it's going to stain your brush, and that's not a bad thing because at least then you'll see what colour you're actually using for this brush. These ones came with some stickers that you could pop on the back, but really you can just use the heads. Again, so I'm going to take my next one. I'm literally just wiping off all of that colour. So it means that no matter what colour within, you know, the orange-red family I'm using, when I come to use this brush again, it's not going to have any sort of transfer of colour. So you can see there, you're not seeing anything. And again, then that sort of vibrancy of the colour has definitely gone. So I just wanted to show you that's how I actually clean my brushes. And then I only need to have one brush per colour family. So now we've got our background finished. I'm going to run this through my die cutter machine with our die. So I'm just going to work out exactly where I want sort of the top and the bottom. I'm going to bring it up just a little bit. And obviously then I'm just going to make sure that it's nice and straight. Hold that down with just a little bit of washi tape. And then I can run that through my die cutting machine. So that's just going to pop out nicely. Okay, so now we have our background die cut. So this is the one that we've just done, but unfortunately my camera wasn't recording. So I'm just going to show you, I'd already had a go actually creating this background, so this is just another piece that I had. So I'm just going to stamp these images on here just to show you how I did it. So all I'm going to do is pop our stamp onto an acrylic block. So what I really love about the quality of these stamps is I have confidence in actually just stamping these with an acrylic block, not my stamping platform, and then just literally straight onto my project. So first of all, we're going to add our one person on that side. Then we're going to stamp our second little person. And I love that these are slightly different as well. So these have like different strings on them. And then we can stamp our big heart stamp. So you can see here, so I've got one behind the other. So I'm going to do that by using a mask. So I've already created a mask using a fully sticky backed post-it note. So I just stamped it and literally just cut that out. So let's stamp our one heart. Then we're going to use our mask to mask that off, and we're able then to stamp our second image. So let's just line that one up, just like so. We can put up our mask, and then we have one balloon that's then stamped behind the other. So it's just as easy as that, just to stamp directly onto our project. So since we've got two backgrounds, we might as well actually just create two cards here. So now what I want to do is just colour in our little guys. So I think I'm going to use just a full black alcohol marker, so we can then colour those in, and it just helps stand out against that background. Okay, so I've got my Nuvo, this is pitch black. So I'm just really simply, so you're not going to get that definition of the body to the head, but I think this is just going to look a little nicer. Just coloured in all in black. Just like so. Just like so. So we've got our two little people. So I think I might leave the love hearts. I'm tempted maybe to add a bit of glossy accent, but I'm not sure yet, but we can leave that as it is. So now we want to create a sentiment. So what I really want to do is create a full sentiment strip along the bottom, and I think some of these sentiments are going to be really perfect for doing that. I actually really love this. I miss you, just wanted you to know. And I think that's going to look nice. And we're going to stamp that onto some black cardstock and we're going to heat emboss that with some white embossing powder. So I've got my stamping platform, we've got some black cardstock. So I'm literally just going to use my anti-static powder bag. And this is going to help the embossing powder not stick anywhere we don't want it to. So just blow off any excess. I'm just going to trim this edge off. So it's a little bit of a frayed edge. It wasn't really a clean cut. Okay. So let's grab our sentiments. So we just want to get that as straight as we can. And then I'm going to use the Simon Says Stamp Clear Embossing and Watercolour ink. So this is really, really juicy. So I think that already looks like a really great stamp, but let's just do a second one just to be on the safe side. And then I'm literally just going to bring this down. And I'm just really quickly going to stamp a second one. So now we have our sentiment stamped. Let's just move that to one side. I'm going to grab a piece of scrap cardstock. Just something that's going to catch our embossing powder. I've got here then the Fine Detail White Embossing Powder by Simon Says Stamp. And we're just going to sprinkle that on. And we're just going to tap off any excess. So if you do have excess on your cardstock, so you can just take a brush and then just knock off any of that extra embossing powder that you don't want. So now we can melt this, so we're just going to heat up the gun. So just by letting that heat up for a minute, that's just going to help stop your cardstock from warping too much. But you can also heat it from the back as well, and that will just help it not to sort of warp too much either. So there's our heat embossed sentiment. Just knock off any excess. So I'm not going to cut either edge at the moment. I'm actually just going to cut it into strips. And this bottom line, I'm just going to line it up with a line on my paper trimmer, rather than actually using the sort of edges of the paper. Okay, then I'm going to come to use the bottom. I'm just going to do the same thing again. I really love these kind of block even sentiments, because it just means you can just line it up so easily, and it's really sort of pleasing to the eye because you don't have sort of like a swoopy word, which means then that you can't sort of get it to line up really nice and squarely. So let's move our excess. So we've got our 2 sentiments here. We've got our fronts. And I think that's actually, that Miss You will sit really perfectly in the centre. But what I'm actually going to do, because I want to get that stitched detail, is I'm going to bring back the die that we used. So I'm just going to line up my panel for the moment with my glass mat, just to make sure that we've got everything really nice and straight. So let's have this maybe sitting just there. let's actually grab our second one. So this is just a tad fiddly, but it's going to add that really lovely border that we've got on the rest of our card. So I'm just trying to line that back up. Pop a piece of tape there and a piece of tape there. And then again, I'm just going to run this then through the die cutting machine. Okay, so we'll pull this out. Let's just take those pieces off the washi tape. And then we've got that really lovely stitched detailing around the edges. So it's not going to be, of course, along the top because we've only, you know, cut it on the actual sides of our die. But that's then just going to sort of match up really lovely with the edging of our panels. So I think I'm going to use just a little bit of foam tape just to add some dimension. So of course I'm going to go in with the Big Mama foam tape, because if you've watched any of my previous videos you'll know just how much I love this foam tape. And I really love the fact that it's on a roll. It just makes everything so much easier. So we're going to pop a strip just right down the middle. Okay, so let's take off the backing. So again, I'm going to use the lines on my mat. Let's just bring it down one. So there's one. And I really love then that contrast between the black and the white, and then just that really beautiful coloured background. Okay, so again, let's just use the lines on the mat. Line up the sentiments so we know it is straight. And there we have our two sentiments, big and bold, and again it just then becomes the main, sort of part of the main focus of our background. So what I might do is just try and add some sort of a clear glossy accents or something to our heart. I would colour them in red, but I don't want to ruin it at this point, so I think I might just leave it. Let me know in the comment section down below whether you think I should have coloured these in or not. So I've got two card bases here. So we're going to have a really nice border. I'm not going to do any matte and layering because again I think we've got sort of a nice colour and I really just love that sort of block. But I am of course going to add some foam tape to the back of this. So let's just cut a bit off our roll. Okay, so we've got our adhesive on the back. So let's just pull off the release paper. And you can see sort of just how quick and easy that is. It's not sort of too fiddly at all. So let's bring in our first card base. So there is number one. Let's just get the paper off this one. Okay, so card number two. So what I'm doing, and just to explain, is so with the lines on my mat, I'm using that to line up my card to make sure my card base is straight. And then what I'm doing is I'm picking a point, or I'm using a couple of other lines then just to match up my card panel. So because then I've gone down in inches and it's all even and my mat is in inches. So I've lined it up and I'm literally just then gonna go in one line at the top, and I'm gonna go in one line across the side. And then I'm able to do that on all four corners, meaning that I can then just line this up really easily. So again, let's just make sure that my card is straight. So I'm going to go in and just line that up, then one square, one sort of a line in. So let me know if that makes sense. Maybe if you want me to sort of go through, maybe in a separate video, just some tips about using your glass mat and how to help you to sort of line up your projects and things. Let me know in the comment section down below if you'd be interested in a video like that, and I can certainly take a look at creating one for you. But there, so now we've got our panels onto our cards. And this is Cosmic Shimmer Clear Varnish. So this is a water-based glaze, so I'm hoping this is going to give our balloons a little bit of a glossy look. When I've tried to use this in the past, I've never always been hugely successful. I'm not 100% sure how this is going to go with our background. Hopefully it's not going to kind of mess with it, but I'm guessing by looking at it maybe it is. So I'm just going to do this super carefully, because I can see that it's just pulling, of course, because our distress inks are water reactive. So I can see that it is just kind of moving that little bit of red. So I'm going to do this second one super carefully. And try not to kind of move that colour around. So I'm literally not even pressing on this bottle. This is literally just what's coming out. And then I'm just trying to use that nozzle just to kind of move it around a little bit. So again, I'm not squeezing this bottle. It's literally just, you know, what's coming out is coming out. And I'm just using the nozzle then just to move that colour around. So I'm trying not to kind of scrape the nozzle either on the background, because it looks in that one you can kind of see that colour moving. I'm not sure if you can pick it up on camera, but I can kind of see it moving a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to leave these to dry really naturally. I don't want to sort of mess with it too much. I don't want to ruin the cards. I'm thinking whether just to add a little bit, maybe a little bit of embellishment on here. Let's grab some Nuvo drops. So I think I'm going to come in here really simply just with the Simply White. And just add a couple. Maybe just two. I'm not sure, but we'll go with it. So one there and one there as well. So we've got sort of just a weird little film on that one, but I think we're going to leave it there. Like I said, I don't want to ruin these cards, because I actually really love how these have turned out. Really love the backgrounds to these. Just super vibrant. Then just mixing that colour with the black and white, I think it just makes it really interesting. And it doesn't bother me really that some of these colours have moved around, because if you did have a balloon that sort of looked like this, maybe it would distort the background a little bit. So that doesn't really bother me. So that's what's ended up being 2 cards instead of just 1. So there are cards for today's video. So if you did enjoy this video and you like these cards, then please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. It's really greatly appreciated. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, why not? Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. On screen now, you'll see a couple of other videos that I think you might be interested in checking out, so click on those if you want to. And I'll see you in the next video. Happy crafting!